and welcome. In today's podcast, Mark will be talking about his new investment in Diageo plc, one of the largest alcoholic beverage companies in the world. The company own over 200 premium brands, which are sold in more than 180 countries. So, to undertake some research, I brought a few of the parrots with me to a bar on the mainland to sample some of Diageo's more famous brands, such as Johnnie Walker, Smirnoff, Baileys and Guinness. Well, actually, I'm in the toilet right now because Warren is feeling a little the worse for wear after too many Captain Morgans. You all right in there, Warren? Right. I think it's definitely time to get back to the island to record this, episode 48 of The Desert Island Investor. Come on, let's get you home. This episode of the podcast is generously hosted by Progressive Equity Research. Visit their website at progressive-research.com. Good afternoon, Mark.
It's your man, so it is to be sure.
Okay, well, I can see that your recent trip to Ireland, conducted on the pretense that it was a fact-finding exercise for the podcast, has still not rubbed off. However, Ireland is the home of Guinness, which is a major brand for your new holding, Diageo plc, ticker symbol DGE. We're going to talk about that today, but before we do, can we have the base numbers, please?
Yeah, a new stock in the low churn portfolio. Diageo has a market cap of 34.5 billion, a PE of 12.5 and a yield of 5.1%, and that's based on a current share price of £15.58.
And at what price did you buy in, and what percentage of the portfolio does it currently represent?
I got the position in January of this year at £15.89, so very, very slightly underwater. And it's about just below 2% of the portfolio, which is a larger opening position than I would take normally. I've watched this business for a very, very long time and thought this presented a good entry point. Now, our last episode was about Vimto. So we therefore segued from soft drinks to hard drinks. And I knew this day would come when we will focus on a sector of which you have deep knowledge. I can show a little bit about the inner workings of the Desert Island Investor. We tend to record at 3 p.m, as this allows a brief window for Paul's hangover to clear before he's back on it again. And your drinking encompasses beer, wine, spirits, and basically anything you can get your hands on. So are you a regular consumer of Diageo brands, Paul?
Well, they own over 200 brands, Mark, so it would be pretty difficult not to be, really. Anyway, let's get started. How old is the business?
Well, Diageo was formed in 1997 between a merger between Guinness, who we know well, and Grand Metropolitan. Now, Guinness itself dates back to 1759, and Grand Met began in 1934 as a hotel business. Then it diversified with the acquisition of Express Dairies. Bernie Inn, I'm sure you remember those, Paul. Prawn cocktail steak and Black Forest Gato. How decadent, yeah.
I've been trying to forget them for a long time.
Yeah, how little we knew. And Mecca Bingo. And later they went into breweries and the spirits business.
Right, okay. So where does the name Diageo originate from?
Well, the dia is from the Latin meaning day, and geo from the Greek meaning world or earth. And the message is every day, everywhere. And it's similar to your name, Paul, in that the Kerin is from the ancient Gaelic meaning hardworking, and the Paul from the Norse meaning not very. Now, apparently, back in the day, brand consultants Wolf Ollins came up with the idea at a cost of £250,000. And we've gone wrong somewhere, Paul. And it's clever what they've done, but for me, it misses the mark. It doesn't really say what they do. They've got all those strong drinks brands, but I'd have thought they could have come up with something a little bit more relatable. But, you're the marketing man. Did you ever get to pitch for this one or cross swords with these people?
Sadly not. A large corporation would never accept an idea from a freelance designer, no matter how good it was. And which is ironic, because often the ideas come from a solitary designer in the agency's creative team. But if the agency wins the account, that designer is unlikely to get any credit or any of the money. Big companies they need to tell their shareholders that they spent a fortune with a top advertising agency. Otherwise, investors might believe that they're cutting corners that could affect growth. So that's just the way it is, unfortunately.
Well, what might have been, Paul?
Well, indeed. But anyway, you've mentioned Guinness. Which other brands do they own?
Well, as you've said, they've got over around 200. So if I read them out, it would probably fill the whole of this episode. But do have a look at the Diageo website. They're all on there, and there's so many that are household names and part of our consciousness. There are 13 brands that each generate revenue of over 1 billion. That's 1 billion each per brand. There's 13, but there's 6 main brands that they've got: Johnny Walker, Smirnoff, Bailey's, Captain Morgan, Tanqueray, and the aforementioned Guinness. Now, Diageo, this is where we're still leading in the world as Brits, Paul. We are number one, or they are number one, Diageo, in terms of spirit sales, and they're 1.4 times bigger than their nearest rival. So that's some distance, which is Pernod Ricard. And they've got around 40%, 40, of the Scotch whisky production market.
And brands, of course, are one of those few special features that give a business a moat. I can see that being attraction for you. And of those core 13 brands, Guinness is probably the most recognisable. So how did your strictly business trip to Ireland go?
Well, it was part of a 19-man working group headed by Johnny Murphy, where we executed a comprehensive field audit of the local leisure and hospitality ecosystem, and key functions included quality assurance testing, which was performing rigorous quality control checks on localised beverages, which was predominantly Guinness. There was footfall and venue optimization, assessing the peak load capacity and queue management efficiency of historic multi-tiered commercial hospitality establishments. And then there was also stress testing at Synergy, where we evaluated group resilience under extreme conditions, including acute sleep deprivation, intensive cultural immersion, and early morning horizontal orientation. Basically, I was there on Johnny's stag do for 3 days.
Right. Okay. That makes more sense. Now we both work with Johnny, and I believe you actually interviewed him for his job on the sales team. If I recall correctly, he was a big daft lad, wasn't he?
Well, yeah, totally different now, Paul. He's a big daft grown man. No, he's a lovely lad, a lovely man. When I interviewed him and asked, where do you think you'll be in 10 years' time, I can't remember him saying, I'll be in Killarney with you on my stag do. I don't think he might have got the job then. But, there was about quite a bit of trepidation on this trip. As you know, I'm very fond of Johnny, and he's been very supportive of the Desert Island Investor and regularly listens to our podcast when travelling to see customers, and I'm just fearful of him. I'm falling asleep at the wheel. But I'm far from being a super slurper. So the party convened at an establishment that's called the Richmond Arms. It's also known locally as the Station. And that was ahead of us flying out to Kerry. And East Lancashire, there is very much an ancient and sacred ritual that takes place ahead of the party setting off. The best man leads you to a quiet part of the corner bar, and in front of a trusted witness, you place your right hand on the Holy Bible and give the "what goes on tour stays on tour" sacred oath. Now, given those restrictions, I may have to refer to an individual as Drinker X. As a testimony to Johnny's popularity, was that people were prepared to sacrifice 3 days to be in his company, and from what I witnessed, a good percentage of their future functioning liver capacity. I don't know I didn't know the vast majority of the group, but I immediately garnered the respect as they thought I'd started the morning with a Bloody Mary. In truth, it was just a double tomato juice with Worcester sauce. However, as I sat there, and as an investor, you're never off duty. You're always spectating and drawing in knowledge. Almost to a man, they were drinking Guinness. This was about 8 o'clock in the morning, and I asked the the barmaid if they were regular Guinness drinkers, or was it just because we were heading to Ireland? And she surveyed the party for a few moments, and they said, no, they're all pretty much Guinness drinkers.
Now, one thing that's affected sentiment within the drinks and hospitality sector is the fact that statistically, younger people are drinking less. I mean, was that a trend that you witnessed on your trip?
No, it wasn't. About a third of the group were older guys like myself, who still put in an honourable shift. But drinking, from what I saw, is still alive and well in the younger generation, well, the younger man. Having said that, it was a stag do, but from witnessing their alcohol tolerance, they are experienced practitioners. For my part, I padded out the trip by doing the Killarney park run on the Saturday and attended 2 church services, Mass at the Franciscan Friary at 10 o'clock, and then got my skates on across to St. Mary's for at 11 o'clock. As an investor, you're always trying to hedge your bets. But the point made about reduced drinking may actually play into Diageo's favour. There's a lot of data that shows that as people drink less, what they do gravitates towards premiumisation. And Diageo's offering is very much premium end. They categorise their spirits offering as 8% value, 30% standard, 37% premium, 16% super premium, 5% ultra premium, and 4% luxury. Now, I don't know what comes after that. And when I go to Mauritius, I drink a little shop/bar. It's run by Mayan, and he's selling various rums and spirits and beers. But the last time I went across, he asked if I could bring him a bottle of Johnny Walker Black Label through from duty free, just for his own consumption. So it's premiumisation, and he's just using that as a special treat.
On that subject, I was only made aware recently that Diageo have an investment in another drinks business.
Since, I think it was 1994, Diageo have had a 34% holding in Moët Hennessy. That's the drinks division of LVMH, Louis Vuitton Moët Hennessy. And there were some clear synergies in the sales and distribution that led to the alliance. And there's even more luxury brands into that mix. They do have a website, the specialist one, Moët Hennessy Diageo. But on champagne, they've got things like Moët Chandon, Armand de Brignac, Ruinart, Krug, Dom Perignon, Veuve Clicquot. And spirits include Hennessy Ardbeg, Glenmorangie, Talisker. And then on top of that, there's a range of wines, including Taylor's ports. And as well, Guinness is a premium product. It's always been at a higher price to other beers. Now, the Guinness was just forever being pulled in the many great pubs that they have in Killarney. Pulled about 2/3, settling and then topped up. And some aficionados in the group said it was better than in the UK. My palate isn't as educated as that. It was certainly good. I'm not sure if it was down to the actual base product or how it's kept or the throughput, or if it's just a little bit of self-delusion. In the UK, according to Marketing Week, 1 in every 9 pints in the UK is a Guinness, and it's increasingly popular among women and those younger drinkers. However, I believe that you're something of a disaffected Guinness drinker, Paul. Surely something's wrong, as you've got Irish blood after all.
Yes, I am half Irish, but unfortunately the English half of me doesn't like Guinness at all, and that half seems to be the one in charge of my alcohol choices. And when I worked in Manchester in the mid-1980s, I'd sometimes call into a pub in Withy Grove called the Swan with Two Necks, where the bitter wasn't very good, but they had a good reputation for Guinness. And I recall from that time of it being quite a strong taste and being quite alcoholic. And I've drunk the odd pint of Guinness since then, but it seems to me to have suffered the same fate as when they introduced Smooth Flow Bitter. It looks fantastic, but it just doesn't really taste of much. Apparently, it is forbidden to sell Guinness in a glass that doesn't have the logo on it. It's forbidden to omit the ritual of pouring the drink and then leaving it, thereby making the customer wait. And it's forbidden not have the correct depth of head on the poured pint. So, all of these things are for a reason, and the reason is to sell the illusion of quality. Now, I know listeners will argue that liking or disliking a drink is very subjective, but if, like me, you're a Guinness skeptic, I can highly recommend a YouTube video by the Wired Gourmet channel. that talks about the specific gravities and all that beer boffin stuff. And the video explains the science that has enabled Guinness to transition from a full-bodied stout into a triumph of marketing spin and nitrogen trickery.
Paul, I mean, I thought you were trying to help me. Last time out, we covered Vimto, so you don't like that. And then you've stuck the booting into Guinness. I mean, when we first decided to do this thing about 3 years ago, did we actually decide that you were allowed to have a mind of your own, or what?
I'm afraid so. Yeah, that came with the package. I'm afraid.
Well, you went totally off script there, mate. Go on.
I like Murphy's. I can't say I've ever had Beamish. I think Murphy's and Beamish are Guinness competitors, aren't they? But
yeah, they are.
I used to, when I lived in Chorlton cum Hardy, there's a pub called the Trevor Arms where they served Murphy's. Spent an awful lot of time in there drinking that, and that I found that much more drinkable. But it's just, again, it is a matter of personal preference, isn't it? But anyway, I believe you do like Guinness, and that you've also started drinking the non-alcoholic version. Is it Guinness Zero? So what's that like?
Yeah, and I'm just going to open one now, Paul. Yeah, so there you go. You've got your parched lips there. Like you can see, I've just had this under the waterfall for a bit, so it's nice and cool. Around September, I took the decision to pare back my drinking at home. That is, I'm going out even more now. And I think it was a habit more than an enjoyment. And really, calories are a bit of a concern as you start. I know you're dragging 60. I'm pushing it, mate. But I love my food, and ditching drink is the easier win. And a lot of people have said how good it was. So I went down to the local, didn't go to the Tesco, but went down to the local Sainsbury's. It was the only thing I purchased. But to my surprise, I needed age verification at the self-checkout. So I asked the assistant why that was, because I'm curious. She didn't know, but apparently as it's originally had full alcohol content, it's classified as an alcoholic drink and does have trace elements, and a zero alcohol product can have as much as 0.05% content. So I've been told by a reformed alcoholic friend of mine that this can be enough to trigger alcoholics, as can mouthwash. I think mouthwash is a bit more of a problem, actually. But I found it quite nice. I like the taste of beer, particularly bitter tastes. But it's not all about effect. And after a day of drinking coffee and sometimes tea, it's a change. And I do drink soft drinks, but sometimes don't want something sweet. And I think I do like the ritual of that Guinness allows. Watching all the bubbles and watching it settle. So, with wine, you select a bottle, you picture the country, you've read the tasting notes, you lay it down, get the corkscrew out, etc., etc. And with Guinness, I like blowing the head off it, and it performs. The Guinness Zero performs like a regular Guinness. Indeed, Guinness was the first beer to have a widget to release the nitrogen, and I think that came back. Look that up. That was from 1989. That was really something that came along, and that really helped the at-home experience. And of course, it has to be in a Guinness glass. Although it's zero alcohol, it's not 0 calories. It contains about half as many. So that is something still for me to keep an eye on. But there's a growing market for zero and low strength beers. And just something from the Irish Times. This is just the Irish market. This was from 6th of June, article from the 6th of June 2025. It said that the Irish market of zero sales rose 35%, and that was following a 47% growth the previous year. So those are strong numbers, albeit from, as we always say, from a low base.
Now drinking Guinness from a Guinness branded glass is, of course, a legal requirement, but I believe you saw specialist shops in Ireland selling all manner of Guinness merchandise.
Yeah, specialist stores selling lots of merch. There was one called Quills. Never mind baseball caps and T-shirts. It's packed with items bearing Guinness logo, even underpants, Paul. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm not familiar with your size. Now, you've got your parrots. There were lots with the Guinness toucan and lots of old retro advertising stuff. It's a marketing man's paradise. And the logo was at every turn out there. Certain establishments, the waiting staff had black shirts, the name of the particular bar on one breast, and then the Guinness logo on the other. And that harp is a national symbol. You see it on court buildings. However, I must stress that none of our group saw a court firsthand. And the brand is hammered home, and it must be relatively easy as a barman. Just keep pulling Guinness. As you've said, there's other stouts, Murphy's and Beamish, and I had a really nice chat with a gentleman PJ Buckley, who was on the Murphys, and I'm glad to say he subscribed to our channel. So thank you, PJ. But another sector that's growing aggressively from that low base is RTD. Do you know what they are, Paul?
I do not.
Yeah, ready to drink. So that stands for ready to drink. And they're pre-mixed spirits with a mixer. And again, Paul, I'm coming to you as the oracle. I know you like experimenting with mixing drinks, like some mad professor, Dr. Jekyll. Have you ever purchased, or do you purchase RTDs?
No, I haven't. I do mix a mean vodka martini, and if they offer a canned version containing 3 olives on a cocktail stick, I might try it, but probably not until then.
Well, I hope they can make a Singapore sling, because I once bought all the ingredients for one of those, and it was about 15 items, mate. You know, I have all these bottles everywhere for one cocktail.
Yeah, it's an expensive cocktail to mix. I've done that, but yeah, it costed quite a lot of money to get the bottles in the first place.
Well, Diageo have products like Smirnoff Ice. You've probably heard of that. Gordon's G&T, Captain Morgan's with cola, and Daily Beverage. This is a magazine or an online site. It says that the RTDs, the ready-to-drinks, account for 3.5% of alcohol beverage market in the top 10 countries. So that's Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, Germany, Japan, Mexico, South Africa, the US, and us, the UK. So at least we're still up there with the world leaders at something. And that's grown from 1.4% in 2014. And I have in the past bought a premix G&T. That's generally if I've been in a hotel bedroom and I've been away. So, I don't want to be coming back with bottles of Gordon's gin. I bought an odd can of that.
Okay, so now getting back to financial reality, I had a look at the chart, and the Diageo share price is cratered. It was trading at £41.10 in January 2022. So what happened?
Yeah, well, for a long time, Diageo was a predictable, high-quality investment, and therefore always looked to me what it was at a leggy valuation. And but it was, it was predictable, it was forever eking out more growth. And let's remember, it's been around in some form since 1759. However, when these stocks hit a bump in the road, when they've been on these long valuations, it causes mayhem. And Fundsmith, of which I'm a holder, they'd held Diageo since inception of the fund, and they dumped it in August 2024. And there'd been problems with the Latin American business, and there were fears of the impact of weight loss drugs. Also, people are smoking cannabis now. That's more available around the world. And I keep hearing about these widely, how these things are being used and their impact. And this is on the weight loss drugs. I just don't know anybody who's using them, these weight loss drugs. And that means that I'm either surrounded by fellow athletes, or else it's something that people do not share. It's something private. I can see why it's a personal matter. But according to the Daily Mail, 6.3% of households have at least one user, and that's up from 2.3% in 2024. So there's a lot of people going for these. And I read an article that claimed that this has led to a reduced grocery spend. This isn't just drinking, but groceries of £780 million. So there's a lot of unknowns what impact these drugs will have. Food and drink sales could be hit more severely than what they are. I would be thinking to myself, as an investor, where could this money from households be recycled into? But with cash-strapped budgets, it's probably welcome. And it may be a sign of the death knell for things like Weight Watchers and Slimming World. And it will probably save the NHS money on gastric band procedures. There's a lot of unknowns, and investors don't like those.
If you were taking a weight loss drug that would stop, help you lose weight without you having to stop eating, why would that have any impact on your grocery spend? I thought you just carry on buying and eating the same amount if you were taking the weight loss drug.
No, because it curbs your appetite, Paul. So you don't.
Oh, I see. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You're just not getting through as much. You are full quicker.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but I couldn't. I've got to be honest. I quite like enjoying the experience of eating. So, and it's not. I don't think I've got a big problem. It's just that I'm pretty active. It's just that I haven't gone down that route anyway. But
right. So yeah, I just wasn't working out how that worked. I thought it was just something that meant you could stuff your face with burgers and just pop a pill, and it wouldn't make you wouldn't put on any weight. But right, so it kills your appetite.
Yeah, I mean it's a bit like Elaine when she worked at the Royal Blackburn on her surgical ward. They used to do these stomach stapling. It was called, So that was just makes your stomach smaller and basically less. Your stomach feels full quicker. That's what that does.
All right. Okay. Right. Sorry, we digress. You've said that you like businesses with lots of cash, and this one's got lots of debt. So doesn't that worry you?
Yeah, you've seen another flaw in my thesis here, haven't you? So as of the 31st of December 2025, it had $21.7 billion in debt. Now, that's nearly as much as you got on your credit card, Paul. Debt's fine, as long as you're generating the earnings to service that debt. It's a bit like the UK government. If it falters, it quickly turns into an albatross.
Hence the dividend cut.
Yeah, that yield figure we gave at the top of the podcast at 5.1%. That's a historic and includes the previous final dividend. So in the interims, sorry, the dividends was rebased. It's a nice word. It's a euphemism for cut or slashed, but they never put that. They said we're rebasing the dividend. And that was to 20 cents down from 40.5. And they now have a new target of 30 to 50% payout going forward, with a minimum floor set for the dividend of 50 cents per annum. So quite right, it's pointless borrowing to pay a dividend.
Now, you've been investing for over 40 years, and you haven't previously bought into Diageo or its previous incarnation, so why have you done it now?
Diageo faces challenges, certainly, but I feel that the degree to which the shares have been battered may, and I repeat, may have presented a rare opportunity to enter. Now, some industries face existential threats, but I cannot envisage a world in which these brands do not exist. And one of the main drivers for me, though, was the appointment of Sir Dave Lewis as CEO on the 1st of January 2026. His nickname is Drastic Dave. He first earned this nickname at Unilever for taking bold strategic action, and he later was the CEO at Tesco, where he did an excellent job of turning the business around after Tesco overstated their profits by 250 million. Would you believe? That wasn't reassuring. So, as I own shares in, Unilever and Tesco, I can say we've worked together previously. He's not been like a bull in a china shop. There's levers to pull. They have cut the dividend. They're probably looking at headcounts. They could sell some fringe operations, perhaps. Perhaps there's a flotation that could be done with Moët Hennessy, or even floating the Guinness operation off. Who knows? But I think it could be very interesting to watch this.
And lastly, looking at the geography of Diageo, what's the company's footprint?
They operate in circa 180 countries, Paul. Right, so I think there's only about 190, and some probably like Afghanistan and Russia are off limits. There's 195 recognised countries. So the sales split is North America 40%, Europe 24%, Asia Pacific 18%, LATAM and Caribbean 9%, and that important market, Africa, growing market 9%. So on Guinness alone, I thought this is interesting. The top 5 countries in volume are the UK, Nigeria, then Ireland, the US, and in 5th place, Cameroon. So there are headwinds from mature markets, but new consumers are coming along from developing economies. And I'm confident that the majority of these Diageo brands will still be available in 100 years' time. And if I'm wrong, then feel free to make contact with me then and take issue with me.
I'm sure people will. You're in a no-win situation here, Mark. Either they all switch to drinking Vimto, or they all carry on getting leathered with Diageo's products. But anyway, right. Well, sorry about our disagreement with Guinness, but other than that, thank you very much indeed for that review. It's very enlightening. Well, that's all for this episode. We hope that you enjoyed it. Please remember the content is for information only and it is not financial advice. Thanks again for listening. See you next time.